One of the key things that makes setting goals so important is checking in so that way you can see what your progress is as well as how consistent you've been. So this is a bit more of an off the cuff episode because I haven't done an update in a while, which I was meaning to do one every single quarter. September was the previous end of the quarter, and we're now about halfway through October. So it's probably a good time that I give you guys an update on my goals for the year and how I've been progressing in them and staying on track. Because I will say, there have been some rough moments there. I think I'm mostly on track, but I think that's the key there is this idea of mostly staying on track versus going all in and getting everything just right. So keeping everything simple, let's get into this progress update. If you're new to the show, this is the Keeping Everything Simple podcast. I'm your host and fellow learner, Michael Klucas. And on this show, we boil down complex topics into simple, actionable tips. And as I said, this one's a bit more off the cuff. So normally I have like my prepared topic and a couple ways in which I'm going to dive into conversations or news around leadership, careers, and personal development and growth. But this one's kind of more so what's been my own story still. So at the start of the year, if you've been following me on YouTube, and which I highly recommend that you go subscribe to that, Michael Klucas on YouTube, there was, at the start of the year, my video of my goals for 2023. So something that I've been doing is putting my goals onto big posters in my room. So that way, every single day, I will have reminders as to what exactly my goals are. Because if you don't think about it and it's not something that resonates with you, then there's a higher probability that you won't actually follow through on the goal itself. And that's just, if I'm going to steal a line from Ali Abdaal, it's the fact that it's this idea of like feel good productivity, where you want to do the things that you enjoy because that's naturally what you'll give time and energy to. And in this instance, that kind of fits because the reason I've been putting my goals on the wall is because they're things that I want to do, things that I know will help me as an individual, but it's geared towards my own style of living my life, my own style of discovery and development. So, pulling up my phone here so I can actually go through this with you guys. The goals are split up into different categories. And so the reason I do this is your life is building blocks of different areas that all need different levels of attention at different points. And the reason I say this is because, and I use this analogy a lot, a 22-year-old fresh college graduate is going to be in a very different place in life than a 35, 40-year-old with a house, mortgage, kids, other responsibilities, etc., etc. And that's something that needs to be taken into consideration when doing things like goal setting, because you have to be aware of the current situation you're in. And that is just one truth of the matter. But as I said, the goals are split up into several different categories. So I have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 categories. Oh, I said several. That works. But the first one is physical health. And so the goals for 2023 that I did have for physical health was going to the gym 3 to 4 times a week for at least 45 minutes, and to also remember to do my cool down stretches because I had the outcome of wanting to build muscle and get back down to a weight average of 170 to 175 pounds by the end of this year. And that one has been probably the largest struggle, not so much in terms of the actual getting into the gym, but more so because it's not always, and this is something that I've learned watching a lot of fitness YouTubers like Will Tennyson, Jesse James West, Greg Doucette, just all like the common ones that you would think of. But ultimately, it's not always going to be a linear progression. Or also, there's like Liam now, who's a bodybuilder on YouTube, who's doing his every video day challenge. Anyways, besides the point. But It's this extra piece of the puzzle because trying to improve fitness, trying to improve your health and your weight, most of the time is pulling the right levers at the right time. So for the first half of the year, I was doing great at going to the gym and getting my workouts in, and splitting it up in a way that I felt was going to give me the best impact possible. And that worked for a while. And then I got down to 185, but the problem was I didn't design it in a way that would help me be consistent, because after I had to take a little bit of time off because of job switches and job searching, my weight instantly went back up to about the 198 that I was previously, which again is the heaviest I've been in a long time. And that is because of just not building a consistent way around this weight loss journey. So another instance now is I have taken a week off from the gym just because I will actually tell you more about the reason at the end of this. So stick around for that. But I've taken a week off and I've just been trying to maintain a daily step count, but I haven't gone into the gym to work out. One reason was it was under maintenance. And again, other reason, a bit more on that later. But the thing is, I've started tracking my calories a lot more. I've actually been weighing my food out. And this is where, going off the saying that abs are made in the kitchen, where I've been seeing the most improvement, because even with taking the time off, my weight's not skyrocketing back up. Obviously, it fluctuates day to day, but the trend has now started to go down as opposed to going down rapidly and then shooting back up because I didn't make a sustainable lifestyle around it. And I'm currently 193 as of this morning and the time of this recording. And I'm just going to keep chugging away, because if I manage to lose about 1 pound per week, I should be getting close to my 175 goal by the end of the year, if my math is correct here. Yeah. Don't double check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. So I'm going to keep chugging away at that while making sure that this path of fitness is sustainable for myself, because I'm actually going to be moving shortly here, which is fantastic. And the thing is, I need to make sure that I'm maintaining a level of exercise that is sustainable and that I enjoy. And still in the product of the physical goals, the other one was then to improve my flexibility and mobility by stretching at least 5 days a week, at least 3 minutes a day, and then focusing on eating whole foods and improving the diet. So the diet thing, that's been improving already. The stretching, I've fallen off the bandwagon on that one, which is a big problem because I have bad knees. It's actually really bad, to the point where I still have pain in my left leg and my left knee because I have a standing desk at work, and I choose to stand more because I'm more productive that way, because I don't want to fall asleep. But it does lead to the problem of I don't have enough time. I'm not taking enough time stretching my legs in the morning, working on my mobility to prevent these types of pains and injuries. So I have to really focus in on that in the next couple of months here, and again, find a way to make it sustainable so I'm not just doing it for a period and then never visiting it again. Now, the other goal I had here was mental and emotional health. And so the first one is daily gratitude journaling, at least 3 things, and then completing a daily review while using the emotion wheel to get more in touch with my thoughts and my feelings. And now, that's not going to really work for everyone, but it works for me. So I've actually really enjoyed doing the daily gratitude journaling, because it allows me to think on the day and really look for the pieces and keep an eye out for the pieces, honestly, that I've been grateful for, the things that I've enjoyed the most, and allow me to make a 1 to 2 sentence reason or 1 to 2 sentence story of what's been the highlight of the day and how I've been feeling throughout that. The other thing was then continuing counseling for at least once a month, and then doing my daily mindfulness meditations, and try to do a nothingness meditation as well. The nothingness meditation hasn't actually occurred, more so because I haven't made time for it, but the mindfulness meditation is part of my nightly routine to get to bed. So I've been consistent with that one, thankfully, and I'm still in counseling. Whereas right now it was scheduled at bi-weekly, but I'm moving it back down to once a month, just because I'm in a spot now where I'm feeling very solid. I'm feeling like I have a good grasp on where I'm going next. And now it's more so just this matter of progress check-ins and finding out new skills along the way as I start to develop and level up the ones that I currently have. The next goal for 2023 is in regards to relationships. And so I have on here to start a version of the 222 with my partner and continue to listen to understand, not just to respond, and following along with my intention. So if I say something, do something. So 222, if you haven't heard of this before, it's this style of dates and ways to be present with your partner, because it is pretty simple, in which every 2 weeks you go on a date night, every 2 months you go on a date weekend, and then every 2 years you are going on a date vacation, and it can be like a week-long vacation type of thing. And so my partner and I have been doing a variation in which we have multiple dates set up throughout the month. And we just plan out a lot of dates in advance. So that way we're actually right now doing about a date a week, which is a lot of fun for us because it's something we get to look forward to every single week. And we get to have fun planning them out as well. And this also is important for, again, the intention piece to it, because I have to plan things out and be able to say, hey, I'm going to do this. I have to make it happen. And not because anyone's forced me to, but because I said I'm going to. And that's been a lot. There's been a lot of improvement in that, even though there's been a lot of challenges for it too, because I'm still very used to operating on this mode of I'll get to it eventually, or I'll figure it out, on the fly. But it has improved a lot and has done a lot of good for my relationship. And that works for us personally. And if you're interested in it, again, it's every 2 months. No, let me take that back. Every 2 weeks, a date night. Every 2 months, a date weekend. And then every 2 years, a date vacation. That's what it is. So try it out. Let me know in the comments below if you've tried something similar, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you tried something similar in the past with your partner, or if you're doing something similar now, or if this is something that you feel could be a fun way to reconnect with your loved one. Now, the other goal in the relationship category I've been actually very bad at, and I feel bad about it, so I really, really want to dive into it more, is texting my friends bi-weekly, trying to call them at least every other month, and then hosting a monthly game night, movie night with my family. So the texting I've been very bad at because it's almost revolved into a texting bi-monthly, which is not the outcome that I wanted. So I'm still trying to get better at that one, and I haven't quite cracked the code on what makes it easy and sustainable for myself. And that's more so because I had focused too much on the calling aspect to it, but I need to focus more on just the texting to make sure that I'm staying up to date with my friends, and then also using it to plan things out. Because if I want to call them, it'd more so be because I haven't, talked to them in a while. But because I want to make time to actually see them, I think I need to focus on that aspect of it more. So that way I'm improving the likelihood of maintaining good contact, because I love my friends dearly. And even though we all have busy lives, I really want to stay connected and grow and foster deeper relationships. And that means I got to stay consistent on that. So I haven't been as good about that one, and I really want to improve that within the last couple of months here, even though we're going to the holiday season. And that also, has its own level of everyone's getting busy. Whereas also the game night, that actually was working out pretty well for a while there. And as I mentioned previously, I'm moving. And that means I'm actually moving back home because of trying to save up some extra money for, again, a thing I'll tell you about at the end of the episode. Stick around for that. I keep hinting at it just because it's actually fantastic news. And I know you can't see it if you're not watching this on YouTube, but I'm smiling very hard. So we'll get to that, I promise. But I'm moving back home, so that's going to make those monthly game nights a lot easier. But I'm also making points just to also casually hang out with my family, whether that's stopping by home after church on Sunday, hang out with my brother, watch anime, or go out. We just actually did a trivia night last night and had a lot of fun doing that. But it's just trying to find these opportunities to have quality time with my family as well. And that's very important because I don't want to lose touch of that, knowing that I imagine you've heard of the graph or you've seen the graph of just the amount of time you spend with people or certain people as you progress through life. And I want to do my best to maintain a good balance of quality time throughout the duration and chapters of my life. The next category that I have on here, and this one differs for person to person, but this one is faith. So some people may call it faith, some people may call it spirituality, but for myself personally, I am a Christian. And so going through and trying to get more intentional again about how I'm pursuing my faith walk, pursuing my faith journey has been important and has actually helped me a whole lot in becoming more certain of how I lead my life and through what lens I view my life as well. And so the goals I had in here was find and work through a weekly devotional or Bible study. And there was originally continue to listen to sermons and discuss with my partner about what my faith means to me, but that's since evolved in which now I am still going through a weekly and daily devotional actually. So like every single day I'm doing a devotional. And at the same time, I am attending church regularly with my partner and her family, but I've taken it a step up where I'm trying to actively engage throughout the sermons now, where I'm using notes, I'm taking notes, writing things down, drawing if that comes to mind, having, again, fun with it, because the whole point is about sustainability. And I know that sounds a little odd, but for me, it just makes sense to be able to say, if I'm going to continue to dive into my faith in a sustainable manner, I have to find a way in which I can make it enjoyable in the long run and being mindful about the ways that work for me. Because I've thought about taking a notebook to church before and just drawing and practicing that way. And for me, it just makes sense to be able to say, all right, as the sermon's going on, let me write down a piece of scripture and then make a little doodle in the margin about this, because that way I can connect with it a little bit more and visually see what I'm thinking in those moments. And then from there, the next one is for faith, keep getting involved with events to have more chances to talk about and discuss thoughts on faith. The other little tidbit was maybe add a Notion journal, which I still haven't done yet, but I have done a whole lot about getting involved, which I've been actually enjoying so much because, again, it's about having the room to discuss these topics with people who are also diving into these very topics. So just recently for the Episcopal Diocese of Olympia, if you've never heard the Episcopal Church, that's not surprising. It's like the 16th largest religion in the U.S., but also it's a pretty small delegation in comparison because, again, 16th is kind of far down there. But that is one of the value sets in which I adhere by. But again, as I mentioned at one of these events actually recently, it's Christian first, Episcopalian maybe second. But I've been getting involved with them. So previously at the start of this year, I had done the mindfulness retreat. Within the summer months, there was a Holy Waste of Time, which is a young adults retreat. So young adults, and obviously that's a wide term, but getting together at a cabin that's owned by the diocese and just spending the weekend wasting time. That means if you want to read a book, read a book. There's multiple activities you can do. There's baking you can do. There's arts and crafts. It's honestly just a time to be around other people who share the same faith values and to connect with yourself a bit more. And then just recently in the past month, so in September 30th, if I remember correctly here, I had gone up to Everett, Washington, and I had taken part in a panel for getting young adults involved with the church more or discussing their faith more. And that was a great time because I got to sit on a panel of 5, be able to discuss my own journey throughout faith, how I came to the church originally, and why I've brought myself to it from a more, if you want to chop it up like this, a more secular fashion, because I love science. I love being able to dive into the psychology of different things, and I love the idea of business and psychology of business, but then also how that plays a factor in my faith and my Christianity. And now then the last thing is in November. So my last thing of the year, last event that I know of right now, I have a high school youth retreat that I will be helping to chaperone and to lead, along with a couple other adults from the diocese. And I'm looking forward to that because I'll get to see some of my former leads now and work alongside them, and it's going to be a great time that I look forward to. But I've been getting involved a whole lot, and again, it's all about finding spaces to have the conversations that I want to have and to get to discuss them with people who I know definitely know more than me, and I can ask them questions, I can dig deeper in with them, and it only helps strengthen what we understand and what we believe, and then also opens the floor just to all the questions that we might have regarding our faith, because that's exactly why it's been so meaningful, is because I have the room to dive into it and actually truly question it when I want to. So I've been doing good on the faith goals, and I'm going to keep working on those ones because, again, my life has been improving because of it, and I want to continue to marry together how I'm going through my faith and my spirituality with my personal development. Now, the next goal was my financial goals for the year, and that was aiming to save 30% of my monthly income and rebuild my safety net of 6 to 9 months, and then increasing my overall income by 25% by the end of the year. And I still have like my lofty goal of aiming for 100K by 25. So I'm 24 now, and yeah, that might be a bit of a hard one, but I'm still going to put it on my board of things I'm going to try to do because I want to make it happen. But as for saving the income, I'm trying to take Ramit Sethi's advice on this one from his books, his podcasts, and focus on automating it the best I can, so that way automatically money gets put away into the proper channels, into the proper buckets, so I can lead my own version of my rich life as I am now, while still working towards that other goal of increasing my income overall. So recently, the other contract for my temp job that I ended up in is already a $3.50 raise than what I was making previously, which is fantastic. And I want to continue to learn new skills so I can push that up higher and higher and continue to increase my income throughout the years to come, because I'm have the goals for the year, but also trying to consider my long-term trajectory and my long-term perspective. And now, speaking of careers, this is where I have some of like the most, like, I would say, audacious goals. But the two main things on here is that for YouTube, this is an input goal of posting one video a week. I was aiming for 5 story form videos 5 days a week, or short form videos 5 days a week. So Reels, TikTok, Shorts, and then aim for 2 to 3 static pieces of content a week, because I still want to hit my 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And I need to really dive into what's been working well, because I haven't missed an upload yet for the year that I've been posting, or for over the year now that I've been posting. And I want to continue to find ways to meet the need and meet the questions that people have in regards to careers, life, mindset, that I can help with where I am right now. So that's going to be, again, audacious, but I'm going to keep it up so I can keep pushing myself to try to learn to be better at podcasting, at YouTube, at Instagram. And it's still a goal that I want to hit in the long term, so I'm going to continue to strive towards it. And then the other thing was for my personal brand, my personal goals. So do one speaking event a quarter on leadership, personal development, mindfulness, and then trying to create that bi-weekly email newsletter to document my journey. And I realized that, and this is taking a page from Colin and Samir, so the creator podcast or creator support podcast, and this is Colin and Samir show, or Colin and Samir show, if you listen to that on YouTube or Spotify, iTunes, whatever. They'd gone through, and from their guests, I don't remember who it was they had on, was talking about when they were making an email newsletter. I think it was the Ali Abdal one. When they were making their newsletter, it was all about bringing value to the audience, bringing value to their viewers, to their subscribers, those who wanted and needed something from them, and they were delivering it in a way that was impactful and meaningful. And not just well, here is my extra information. And I think to the Jordan Harbinger show, where from his email newsletter, it is not only just giving an overview like what he was talking about in the recent episode, but also diving into some extra information that may not have been talked about in the show itself. And I'm realizing I can't just make a documentation of my journey. I'm doing that through this podcast. I'm doing that through my shorts and my reels, my little mini series. I need to do something that is actively bringing value and answering some sort of question for you guys. So I'm reevaluating how I want to do a bi-weekly email newsletter and maybe doing a paid version instead. But it all first comes down to, what am I doing that's going to actively provide the most value and the most means to an end? I feel like it's a good way to say that, but I'm not totally sure. But that's ultimately something that I know I need to work on. But it's also on the back burner until I get a better grasp of like what's resonated with you guys most, and what am I doing that's really going to give you guys the most value from my content. But the speaking events, as I mentioned previously, I've been doing a lot of those actually through the Diocese of Olympia, and that's been going very well. I'm trying to do more now so I can hopefully get in on some community colleges, some high schools in the area, and I definitely want to make that one of my goals, to do those type of speeches. And I'm going to just keep chugging away at that one, keep my long-term view on here, so that way I can build a life that is mindful and enjoyable by the end of it. And the final goal here was my personal goals, and this is just like the miscellaneous things of like, this would be good to do, I want to do it. So practicing Spanish every single day to make progress, because I am half Guatemalan. It bothers me, and I mean it really bothers me at times that I can't speak Spanish fluently. I can converse well enough. If I need to get somewhere, order something, I can do that, but I can't hold a conversation, like a long conversation with somebody. And I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to communicate with my family. I want to be able to go into a local Hispanic restaurant and just speak Spanish because I can. So it's a personal one for that, but it's also something that and this is from the Atomic Habits book, building into my identity of, this is who I am and I want to lean into it, and I need to keep practicing that. So I'm making progress, but I have to continue to push that one so I can get to the level where I can use it on a day-to-day basis confidently. And then the other thing is then read a book a month. It can be a fun genre too. And then just invest in my hobbies more. So drawing, painting, singing, playing music, and just having fun with them. And so I have been doing fairly well on the book reading. So let's go through the list of books here. So the one that I most recently finished, actually within the last 24 hours, is Tiago Forte's Building a Second Brain. I want to find a better organizational system for my Notion as well as my projects. And so going through this book was super helpful for that. So I now have a framework to go from. And just as he says in the last chapter of this book, is that it's a framework. You can use these tools as necessary. Take what you need, leave what you don't need, and ultimately it comes down to what makes sense for you, because organization and personal development in his methodology go hand in hand, and I like that approach a whole lot, because there's so much more that goes into how do I want to use this and why do I want to even use it to begin with. So that's been a fantastic read. The other book, which I think I have 10 pages left to finish up, is Jesus and Buddha Meet in Stillness, a beginner's guide to meditation and contemplative prayer by Paul Reitman. So Reitman is a author that I actually got the chance to meet during the contemplative retreat earlier this year, and fantastic guy. Got to listen to him and discuss just how the practice of mindfulness for both of us has deepened our faith and belief as Christians, and then how we've been able to relay it into or parlay it into our practice of contemplative prayer. And at the same time, just getting to understand ourselves more, having more self-awareness. It was a fantastic read. And again, I have a couple pages left to finish on it, so I'm still counting it, but I'd recommend checking this book out if you're at all interested in deepening that section of your life. Next one was Psychology, the Influence of Persuasion, Robert B. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Cialdini, PhD. So this book is one of the most recommended marketing books, if I remember correctly, because it's just so effective in giving examples of how to use different versions of persuasion, different versions of using the human psychology and our human kind of clocks and triggers to influence others around us, not to manipulate, but to influence and invoke some form of emotion that can be used to translate into action. So great book on that one. I listened to the audiobook on it. I think I was when Spotify still had a lot of random audiobooks that people were just recording before they took those down. So I had listened to that one on there. Another audiobook that I recently bought and listened to was Parker J. Palmer, Let Your Life Speak, Listening for the Voice of Vocation. I've been listening to that one and revisiting it because it's actually a very small little book. If you wanted to read it in person, probably only a couple hour read. I think the audiobook itself was an hour and a half, 2 hours. So very short, but very insightful for trying to understand what is your career calling you to do, how are you discovering your own sense of vocation, because there is so much that there's so much that goes into making a decision about work and about life, and that if we aren't actively allowing ourselves time and space to have that conversation with ourselves, it's not going to bring us to a life that we lead or a life that we love, or bring us to a space that we enjoy, because we'll be too busy running from the life we're in. But that book is a fantastic read for diving more into what does calling mean to us, what does a vocation and a career mean, and how are we building that in the best way possible, while not running away from our own natural inclination and best abilities, or ways that we can even use those to elevate our life and our career. So I recommend that book if you are struggling with this sense of career, with the sense of direction, not knowing where to go. I recommend it. I actually can't recommend enough for that aspect. So I'm going to use that one actually, and for a lot of my frameworks that I'm trying to develop, I'm using a very similar methodology because of that. So that was one book there. The other one was Love Sense, so the Revolutionary New Science of Romantic Relationships. That one was recommended to me by my partner because it was gone through by her counselor, and so I decided to pick up the book as well to read it alongside her. Great book in terms of getting to understand attachment styles a lot more. So the avoidant attachment style, the anxious attachment style, the secure attachment styles. I've made a video about that in the past, I believe, but highly recommend that one as well, just so that way we can dive into it more. I feel like I may have mentioned it previously, but I think I have. But it's a good book so that way you can understand how your relationships are functioning and what you are personally doing that you may not even realize if you have anxiety or avoidance issues, like I have the avoidance issues. But it's a very good read to get a better understanding of what makes you tick, what makes you be able, or what will make you be able to get to a new point in your relationships and develop them into healthy and secure relationships. So great book there. And the final one that I recently read was Storyworthy. So Engage, Teach, Persuade, and Change Your Life Through the Power of Storytelling by Matthew Dix. So I love this book. And that feels like a cliche that a lot of people that do copywriting or a lot of people that do content creation will say, but it makes so much sense because going through and understanding what makes a good story, what makes a captivating story, how can I connect with my audience, how can I provide value to my audience through transition, bring them from point A to point B in the shortest way possible, and provide the most value and insight possible. It's such a good book. If you want to learn storytelling, if you want to learn copywriting, being able to understand what makes a compelling story, highly recommend it. Check it out. Go to your local library, buy it on Amazon. I recommend that book a lot for trying to, again, if you want to be a better speaker, if you want to learn what makes stories so interesting to humans, to people, I recommend that book. And right now, I've just recently started reading the E-Myth Revisited because I happen to pick it up at not my local, but at Goodwill. So trying to read through a couple more books through the end of the year. But I want to keep reading because if I continue to read, I'll continue to learn and I can bring new ideas to you guys, summarize some of these books up, and also expand the well of knowledge that I get to draw from because I'm using the Cal Newport style of like note taking in my books, which is like a little dash in the corner of the page, highlighting what is important to me, but then also relating it to the Tiago Forte style of it and what am I using that highlight for as opposed to just highlighting because it's interesting. So I'm trying to be intentional about the reading, and I'm going to continue to do that, and I'll continue to give you guys updates on that, especially on like Instagram. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at KES Studios, because that is where I'm just giving these updates on my books of like how am I using these, how am I reading them, and what's my progress on them. So those are like the goals that I've had throughout the year. And now the biggest one that changes is the personal goals, because I recently got engaged. So again, if you watch this YouTube, I'm smiling a lot right now. But I proposed to my girlfriend over this past weekend, and that the overall changes that I see coming because of this, because of the goals I've had and because of everything that led up into it, I felt like I was confident to do this. Even though the actual proposal itself, my stomach was in knots leading up to it. Like I couldn't even finish dinner, which was a bit of a giveaway, but I had to make sure that it wasn't leading her on to it. But it was going through having friends help me plan it and being able to make the proposal that she wanted, to make the proposal that I wanted, and make it meaningful, make it memorable. And now that I get to plan a wedding with her, get to plan a wedding with my fiance, and continue to work towards this new life and this new chapter together is exciting. And that's why I'm moving home. I want to be able to save up to help pay for the wedding a lot more. I want to make sure that I am doing everything that I can on my end, so that way I'm setting ourselves up for success. And I'm just excited. I'm ecstatic about it. She said yes. Well, clearly I wouldn't have called her my fiance if she didn't. But I'm just so happy. And I'm going to continue obviously documenting this stuff as I go, but this is what makes goals so important, because I set a goal a while ago, working with her friends weekly or like bi-weekly, just trying to get some form of a plan put together, because I was not confident in my ability to plan. So that meant doing dry runs on our date nights. So trying to just take over planning for some of them and entirely plan them all out, so that way I could do that and do it with confidence. And now to know that it worked, knowing that even after the proposal itself, and it's only been a couple of days, that we talked through the planning and what went into it, and just knowing how surprising it is for her to hear me just rattle off what I did leading up to it, and me feeling so confident in my ability now to be like, I can help plan this wedding. I know I will be a good partner, because it's not going to be one of those horror stories where the husband doesn't have any say or any like support in the wedding plan itself. So I'm excited. I'm happy. I can't wait to marry my partner, marry my fiance. And I want to continue to develop, continue to learn, continue to grow, so that I'm continuing to provide the best version of myself and be the best version of myself for my fiance who I want to give the world to. So goals are important because they lead us into actions that are meaningful. If you set the wrong goal, you can always adjust it, and don't be afraid to scrap a goal entirely. So even leading up into this, so proposal for all the goals throughout the year, it's been built around what have I really truly wanted to do, because if I'm focusing on those pieces, that is what makes it so much easier for me to say, I want to do this. This is a part of who I am. I want to make this a part of who I am. And that is where the biggest changes occur. So that is my progress update to you guys. Again, there's been a whole lot that's happened in the past couple of months here. I'm excited for the last quarter of this year. I'm going to keep trying to do these speaking events. I'm going to keep reading books, learn new things, bring them to you on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. So I recommend following me on all of them. So Michael Klucas at YouTube, KES Studios. So for Keeping Everything Simple Studios on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm going to continue to try to find ways to answer your guys' questions about career, life, mindset, mindfulness, living a life that is mindful and simple, and trying to discover my mode of operation and my own unique niche of one, and how that can help you guys and help you elevate your careers and elevate the lives that you lead in a way that is meaningful to you. So, keeping everything simple, comment down below if you made it this far in the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, what is a goal that you've set at the start of the year that you've made progress on, or that you've had to drastically change because you realized it was the wrong goal? Because I really want to know what's been your guys' own process of pivoting, changing direction, because that is so important for us to do to make sure that we are going in the direction that means the most to us. If you're listening to this on a podcast app of choice, make sure that you leave us a rating. It helps expand the show and recommend it to other people just like you. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe to, again, help boost the channel. It helped me out so much, and also it would please the algorithm. Keeping everything simple. Have an amazing day, you amazing people, and I will see you all in the next episode. Make sure you go out there and do great things.